It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast with Soonerscoop.com's entire crew, including Josh McQuistion, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Prisbillo. I am your host, Carrie Murdoch, trying to hold it down as we have just passed another National Signing Day. Sooners have a very good day. Brent Venables' Wi-Fi was not great, but we'll rectify that today with another try at the head coach. But we did get a chance to talk to Jeff Lebby, to Todd Roof, and from a dorm, was it? Do you think? That's the thing. Like, I think, guys, I'm not sure, but in the craziness of this all, and maybe we can ask Brent about it today, like, you think about him flying in on that jet and everything that's gone on, the total chaos. Like, was yesterday the first day he went back home since he flew into Norman on that jet?
It might have been.
I mean, those guys are so busy with recruiting, and maybe he had a chance to fly back out real quick and run home and stuff, but I think there's a possibility, like, yesterday's the first time he was back at his house since he got hired.
I'm sure that, they, like, were able to send stuff over here, but since he took over, I mean, he went straight into press conferences and kind of getting the bearings. He might have gone back during,
like, right after he held his first press conferences.
Yeah. Yep. During that, like, right after.
Well, surely at Christmas, right?
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
But, I mean, they went to.
Is he Jehovah's Witness? I didn't know if he practiced.
But didn't they fly? Well, he didn't fly with the team to the bowl game, so I guess he could have done it then, yeah.
No. Yeah, because he came in on what was that, Bob? The Monday before he was out at practice, and that was the first time he had been down in San Antonio.
But think about it just from his perspective.
He came after our availability was done.
You think about it from his perspective, like, he did not have much time to breathe. Like, it seemed hectic and chaotic for us, but think about for him with recruiting and being on the road and trying to finish off a class. And let's start there. Josh, and let's go to you. Let's go over just exactly what happened yesterday, what didn't happen. And then apparently you have a big name reclassifying today that also now puts OU with the possibility of having another player in the 2022 class.
Yeah, and, in that vein, we'll start with the news of the morning, and that's Lebby Overton, the big five-star defensive lineman from Georgia, announcing that he's going to reclassify to 2022. And when he, simultaneously as he made that announcement, he also announced his final five that Oklahoma is a part of. Now, what's interesting to me is in repeated interviews, including the one he did with you all yesterday, he talked about having a few guys they still wanted to try and land. I've got to think that he knew about this situation because it sounds very much like OU is there largely built on his relationship with Lebby's relationship with Todd Bates. So I think they knew. Obviously, Josh Connerly is also part of that, the big offensive lineman from Washington. So Oklahoma's still got some things they're looking at. And I talking to some people last night, I get the feeling that the portal is still going to be something they look at probably almost exclusively on the offensive side of the ball, where you might see them make a move or two, just kind of depending on what becomes available in the spring. But those are the two names that obviously still have to be kind of monitored and watched. And for those that don't know, Lebby Overton is the son of former Oklahoma offensive lineman Milton Overton. So there's some connection there. He visited several times. He likes Oklahoma. I think the belief is absolutely that it's going to come down to Georgia and A&M. Visited both of those 3 or more times. Lives in Georgia, so obviously a lot of UGA connection. Their national championship, there's a lot of draw. But though, like I said, those are the two to watch. As far as yesterday, we can get into the individuals, but I tweeted it out this morning, and I thought it was interesting. There were OU landed 4 new commitments yesterday that ended up signing with their class. There haven't been 4 new commitments on signing day since 2007. For those that can't kind of place what that means, that class included Travis Lewis and Ryan Broyles. Like, that tells you the timeline you're talking about there. I mean,
and when you
we're
say that,
going way back.
You're not saying total class signed. Like, you're saying people made their decision on signing day and signed with Oklahoma. Like, pick them over other schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And I need to go back and see how that compares to some of the now, over the last few years, the early signing period dates, where there have been more announcements, obviously, than in February for Oklahoma. But I still bet that 4 is a big number on any signing day for really anybody. So, and it says something. A couple of those kids are from Florida. I've talked for years, Florida guys just run long. They always do. Now, this one is more understandable. I mean, these are guys that Oklahoma hadn't even offered, at the time of the early signing period, or I guess Moten had been offered and R. Mason Thomas, but Jamarian Burt didn't have an offer. So there's it's really interesting. Like I said, it was a bigger day than we're used to dealing with on signing day itself, when we've known for 2 decades Oklahoma does most of their work in late November, early December, and in the summer. That's always been their clear areas of emphasis. And, we'll see what happens with the new staff here, but you would expect that to largely continue.
Or any of the 4 guys that did end up signing yesterday, Josh or Bob or whoever, was it undersold? Like, are we going to look back and go, that was a lot bigger than we probably thought it was at the time, whether it be an R. Mason Thomas and being able to, get him and probably in the thinking that they weren't going to be able to get somebody had there not been a coaching change or even a Jamarion Burt. Jamarion. I need to make that. I need to get that
I was going to say, do we?
Jamarion. I just got tripped.
Isn't it
now?
in,
Well, I thought when
with E-E-N?
Jamarion.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, that's now
To
I thought
answer your
Carrie
question,
at the start of the show said Todd Roof,
He did.
and
say
so
that.
I thought we were
Todd
just
Roof?
on a pattern here.
I'm getting between
He
TD
sounds
and
instantly
Ted.
like in his early 30s.
Yeah, TD and Ted. It's like that's a lot to take in.
I just call him Father Roof.
I mean, after hearing his lovely voice yesterday.
But Bob, go ahead.
You
actually wanted to
Great
talk
vibes.
about recruiting.
I
was
think
actually
Ted
gonna
Roof can just
answer the question.
I would hire Ted Roof to read me my home warranty information. I mean, like, it's just a beautiful
Books on
voice.
I may see if he has some cameo opportunities. If he'll read some books to the girls at night, I'll just record them and play them.
Cameo.
So he can read, where the wild things are.
Cameo. You have to be asked to be on Cameo, Josh. And luckily,
okay.
It is.
Well, get Ted Roof on Cameo, Eddie.
I mean, we'll see. We'll have to fill him out more. I mean, I just can't refer anybody.
But anyway,
I'm
Bob,
sorry, I totally railroaded Bob.
Yeah, Bob. No, I derailed it. That one's on me.
I go with R. Mason Thomas just because I think the natural assumption the whole time was that him and Ahmad Moten were going to be a package deal, despite the fact R. Mason kept saying they weren't. I think he's like, come on, they're teammates. They're going the same places at the same time. They're going to go together. And you thought, well, with Miami getting the last visit, they're Miami kids. They're going to be Hurricanes. And to get R. Mason and then to get Ted Roof to sort of explain, hey, we didn't have, the scholarship available at Clemson to try to make that offer. But, man, when we got here, we knew he was like the first one we had to go after. So it's like they understood how important he can be, and they don't, care at all about the 3-star ranking that's next to his name.
For me, it's Jamarian Burt. I think, and I don't know if you guys, I know we talked a little bit about it through DM. I kind of went back and watched, all the coaches talking through their classes and and Brandon Hall talking about Jamarian Burt, and it sounds like he may start at safety rather than corner where we've got him listed on Rivals. I think he feels like that kid could be an absolute steal. I mean, just one of those kids from Florida. it's one of those things that it's hard for people to understand, and I say it all the time when people will tell me, oh, these Oklahoma kids are rated too low. Man, you haven't been down to Florida. Like, everywhere you look in Florida, there's a DB that can friggin' play. And Jamarian Burt, to me, when I watch his tape, I see a guy that can turn and run. I see length. He's incredibly violent when he arrives. Like, this isn't your soft little corner that's just going to try to wrap up and get his guy to the ground. Like, he arrives with, violence. His tape is one of the more fun tapes in this whole class to watch. But I think he could absolutely be one of those guys that we look back on and say, maybe he was a little overlooked. But I'll be honest, I really like in different ways all four of these guys. I like Thomas a lot. Bob's right. He's a naturally gifted pass rusher. Cavante Henry, that length and his athleticism, but he's so raw. Like, you don't know what he's going to be, but he's a good running back. Like, you watch his tape and you're like, that dude could play some ball somewhere as a running back if he wanted to. But you talk about a big framed guy. He probably can get into that 250, 260 range if he can keep his athleticism. I mean, there's a lot to like. Grayson Halton, I think maybe of the four, is the most ready to help early on because of his frame and the way he's put together. I don't know that he has the upside of the other three, but like I said, in all four of them, I think Oklahoma did a nice job finding guys who could help. Not just, oh, we need a body here, we need a body there. Like, these guys can help OU, and I think in a couple of cases could be, difference makers.
What, Josh, what do we know kind of about the madness of the previous 72 hours with Henry?
Yeah, so, it was funny because talking to people really Friday and Saturday, it felt like, and I mean, maybe Bob will feel differently or can back me up on it, it felt like he was gone. Like, it felt like, okay, he's going to Arizona, he's going to follow several of the guys Arizona has signed in from the Los Angeles area. They've really, I know people like, oh, that's crazy. They've done a nice job. They really have. They've got a top 25 class at Arizona, including a 5-star from Anaheim Servite. So, you're talking about just a good Los Angeles-based class, and obviously much closer to home. But I think really, if you want to give one guy, his flowers, his credit, it's Miguel Chavis. I think he stayed in the fight. He never gave up on it. From what I can gather, Henry went back home. Oklahoma talked with him several times, and really, I got the impression that by Tuesday night, Oklahoma was pretty confident. They had a pretty good feeling of what was going to happen. And then as the day wore on, you just kept talking to people, and it sounded like, okay, yeah, this is going to be OU. And it's just crazy how it turned, because this time last week, it was certainty that it was OU, and he was going to visit Florida. Well, then he makes the last-second change and goes to Arizona, and it sounded like Arizona just had all this momentum and really had made a big move with him. And then within 48 hours, it was all back with Oklahoma again. So it just tells you in recruiting how fast these things can turn. And when you have guys that can build relationships like Brent and this whole staff talks about, you can stem the tide of this stuff sometimes. It's not, oh, well, they're really flashy too, and they have this. It's, this is what we believe we can do with you. We can make you whatever OU's pitches, they can sell it because there's a little more connection than just what we can do for you. Like they keep talking about, was it relational instead of transactional?
Josh, this might not be fair to Cavante, but I sort of wondered that when we all got the impression Moten was heading to Miami, did that open the door up for Henry? I know they're at different positions. One's tackle, one's edge rusher, defensive end. But you think there's any correlation that maybe they couldn't take both of them, couldn't take all 5 that they wanted? But with Moten going away, that opened the door for Henry to come back in.
I can't say that I've had that conversation with anybody, but it makes some sense, Bob, because when you look at it, you talk about like I said, I've already heard that, if OU is going to look in the portal, it looks like it's going to be on the offensive side of the ball. So they feel good about those defensive numbers. And I think they have they're 21, I believe 11 are on the defensive side of the ball if I've got my numbers right. So, you've got that going on. And so it makes some sense. Now, I honestly, I feel like they would have made it work either way. I feel like they really like Henry's potential. Moton is a guy that, it's hard to find big athletic bodies, and it's never bad to do so at a really good program like Cardinal Gibbons. So I feel like they would have made it work, but I absolutely could see your point, and there are some things that seem to make that make sense.
3 of the 4 guys yesterday were Miguel Chavis responsibilities, right? Or Mason Thomas, Grayson Halton, and Cavante Henry.
Yep.
He definitely opened the recruiting. I would say Bates got involved, as time went on, especially with Halton, who's going to be a little bit, more of an inside guy. But, I don't want to take any credit away. I am very impressed with the early returns from Miguel Chavis. He's done a very nice job.
Was it Halton that said that his parents were almost moved to tears by Brent Venables' in-home visit? Did you guys see that?
That is what I had read.
I
yeah, I read that same quote. That it was just like that. It's something like they were moved to tears and couldn't believe I had the chance to play for a guy like this, or something like that. It really.
Yeah,
I gotta admit, I did get a little emotional watching that Rivals interview with Adam Gorney yesterday. Although, not so much an interview as just, hey Brent, why don't you talk about recruiting? And then he just goes and goes, but. Just the passion that he has, it's amazing. And and I've watched some of the stuff like with Toby that they did for Sooner Sports TV. And, we talked to him yesterday. We'll talk to him again today. But just the overall thought that he has put into running a program and, his philosophy on recruiting and his philosophy on just being a football player. Like, he puts so much thought and he believes in it so much, and there's so much passion behind every little aspect of what it means to be in college football for him. I can see how he can win people over easily when he goes at home like that.
And that's, remember we talked about that a couple weeks ago, where like when it's the in-home visit time, that's when Venables and OU was really going to shine, when in previous years maybe that's when they took a backward step. And we just even go to junior day with Angie Wisner, who just might as well be on the staff for OU when you look at the tweets that she put up this weekend. Someone who's visited when the previous regime was here and then comes back Saturday with Trey, the 2023 running back prospect, and is just blown away and just notices the night and day difference that is there with Venables leading the charge now.
If I could forecast Angie Wisner's commitment, I would feel very good about forecasting what is on her brain. But to back, I just got to looking, guys. We were talking about the length of that answer that Brent gives in that Rivals interview. I'm looking at all the other coaching interviews they did. Marcus Freeman, 8 minutes. David Shaw, 7 minutes. Shane Beamer, 9 minutes. Kyle Whittingham, 8 minutes. Brent Venables, 13 and a half minutes. Like, it's just so much longer than any, where I'm sure Adam had 3 or 4 questions he wanted to ask each head coach. But when Brent that answer had to be 6.5 minutes, right? Like, it was, like, I kept thinking of what Bob would feel like trying to transcribe that answer.
Well, even though the audio was garbled yesterday, that it went 31 minutes for an opening statement and 5 questions.
Brent's got a lot to say.
That's amazing. And it's not bad. It's just
the 13-minute video that Rivals put up.
And I think the last question was more just a statement.
It was like a comment.
Yeah.
So, well, he didn't want to open him up and have like a 20-minute interview.
See, I was hoping for that. I was like, oh, this is going to be like a 45-minute interview.
Hey, Brent is, he's futuristic. He's now a head coach built for podcasts. You can do a 2-hour interview with him every time and just release a podcast.
No kidding. am I looking into everything that was like, is it just purely a coincidence that there's been so many things that could be looked as maybe shade being thrown to the former head coach? Am I just looking for something that maybe isn't there?
Do you mean from the staff, or do you mean from like the words that recruits and things are saying?
From the staff, mainly from Brent Venables, more specifically stuff sitting around like Caleb Williams, and when he was talking about, I think it was Kersey's question yesterday, or maybe Bailey's question as far as like when they moved on. I know it was kind of broken up in between, but it was basically like, if you enter the portal, you're telling us you don't want to be here. We're going to operate like you're not going to be here. And that,
right.
That's
he was
saying,
like, you have ways to figure out if you still belong here without going into the portal first.
Right.
And it's almost like you've made up your mind by going into the portal. Like, you know that you don't want to be here. And that's how Venables and the staff has to react accordingly.
Yeah, it's almost him just confirming, well, once he went into the portal, we knew that, that things were going in the wrong direction. So
right.
I think he said it was a couple of weeks after that, and then it was pretty much done, or they were pretty much done.
Yeah. I just think that like some of the stuff could be looked at, like looking back on it, and it's easy to say this now, but looking back at some of the stuff that he has said, and just, I guess the emphasis.
Overemphasized.
Anyway,
emphasis. Did it.
There you go.
Like some of the stuff, it looks like it's like, is he taking a shot at? I don't think it's a direct shot, but
I think your emotions are a little clouded in this. I think that you're looking for more.
Sure.
I mean, you've been through a tough week. I mean, after being blocked, I would have a hard time seeing things, objectively as well. I mean, by the way, let me go check and make sure I haven't been blocked today.
Act of war.
What a fucking scumbag.
I'll be honest.
Like, how is the counseling going, Eddie? Like, are you how are you feeling?
I think the courts have decided that a restraining order would be best, and I'm not going to be the one that's filing it.
I'm currently not blocked, so I haven't done anything today.
If we didn't have Bedlam basketball this weekend, like I am giving serious thought to flying to LA and doing a like TMZ ambush interview, like trying to get him out, like walking out of the facility or something. I actually think it would be pretty funny, and I think I think he would take it pretty funny. I don't think it's like he's mad, because I've talked to people that are out there, and I don't think it's like a mad thing. I think he's just tired.
Do you think like maybe Annie Hansen blocked you? Like,
no,
whoever it is. Like,
she
there's
still
always been
me.
No. I'm saying she got on Lincoln's account and blocked you, like for his own good or something.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I know for a fact though, when he was here, there was only like 2 or 3 people that had access. It was Lincoln and like 2 other people.
Right. I'd heard the same thing.
One of them.
No, I think you're right.
Oh well. It like I've told some people this week, it's better for me that he did block me.
It just shows that you were living in his head a little bit.
I'm walking around in his head. I'm making Mike Morgan underpredict forecasts.
Man,
the dry slot wasn't there.
The dry slot was not there.
He's a little obsessed with you.
I mean, that son of a bitch. It's like we were talking about yesterday in the War Room. Some of the stuff that you see on ESPN, it's just like, who is this person?
Between him and Jimbo.
Jimbo.
I will say, I was watching.
Like Jimbo.
I was watching the. By the way, Josh is going to love this, because I was trying to flip between ESPNU and NFL Network to watch the Senior Bowl coverage. And when their Senior Bowl coverage ended on ESPNU, it went to a national recruiting show, which was just a disaster, both from a guest standpoint and just a Tom Luganbill standpoint. Sorry, Josh, I brought up the name that you don't want mentioned.
Damn it.
But I sat there, and then when Lincoln Riley came on and was being interviewed, like, I'm with you, Bob. Like, it's it's almost hard to just hear him speak. It makes me feel like a little sick to my stomach. And I don't know why that is.
Visceral reaction to it. Yes.
My body literally says, like, I want to dispose of something that's going on right now. I just don't like listening to him.
It's just like he's full of shit. He's full of shit.
But aren't most coaches full of shit?
Well, here's the thing.
You really think everything that Jimbo Fisher said yesterday was legitimate about sliced bread?
No, but the thing about it is
he didn't have the damn website right.
Jimbo Fisher knows he's a scumbag. He's accepted that he's a scumbag, and I think he kind of likes it.
And he's on the right track here. Keep going.
Bruce Pearl knows he's a scumbag.
Keep going.
Does Lane Kiffin know he's a scumbag?
He's a sociopath.
He doesn't think it. Exactly.
I think he feels like it's kind of like the where I was with the Williams clan after a while, after like he entered the portal and all that fallout and that stuff. It's like these people think that they're pulling a fast one on everybody, and I just don't think that's the case.
You know, it is, to me, it's telling, and you know, people can probably blame me and the Sooner Summit, by the way. Man, when I shit on something, it goes bad, doesn't it? Like, yeah, I shit on this.
Who's next?
I don't know. I haven't picked my bullshit radar has not gone off yet on anything. Like, I don't know. To me, it's telling that we never, even though we had his publicist information, even though I did an article with Carl Williams that I thought was a good article, it was the first time anybody got him to say that he would have walked on, even if he hadn't offered him a scholarship. Like, to me, it's telling that we could never develop a relationship with the Williams family. Because I think we are the most anti-bullshit outlet out there that's not, you know, a paper of record. Like, I think people know you can't sell us a bunch of hot air.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be your friends. We don't want to buy you fireworks.
You're like Suge Knight at the movie awards or the BET awards years ago.
I'm not starting an East Coast, West Coast rap battle. I mean, I'm not trying to get shot.
Yeah.
Is that what we're getting to?
Like
my God, am I Tupac all of a sudden? What the hell is going to happen?
Street cred wise, think about the merch we could sell if one of us got shot.
Merch?
You're saying I should have took one for the team a couple years ago?
I mean, I'll shoot myself right now.
I mean, we have been shot at. Yeah.
Like in the knee or something.
I mean, watch out.
Would we just sell a shirt that like has like a red spot wherever we got hit on the torso?
Lincoln, you better get out of that stadium when you play in the Rose Bowl as quick as you can. I'm just telling you. We've been shot at. I mean.
And it'll be people, you know, wearing, you know, Rush 3 Drop 8 shirts in blue and gold.
Man. By the way, those have been doing really well.
Should we start selling the Rush 3 Drop 8 shirt with like a little hole in it, like the backside of it?
My God,
Duvar.
I could put some of those in there,
but it can't be like a manufactured.
Woody, this week on the pod, we said.
See, like Eddie asked me about this too, and I'll give a shout out to Neil Ken if you're listening, Neil. Like, he hit me up a while ago, and I never answered him back, and I really deserve to give him a message. But he was like, hey, I have this design for T-Bow shirts. I was wondering if we could sell them on your merch store and work out a deal. And I thought about it, and Eddie was like, when are we selling T-Bow shirts? And I was like,
TBOW.
Is it just TBOW? We can't say T-Bow?
Like,
you're the only one that says T-Bow.
You're the only one that says
it's just so easy. It's. I mean, I don't want to spell out TBOW. I'm lazy. I'm sorry, but
I say T-Bow.
T-Bow.
Well, there's a
It's
T.
a bow.
I don't want to disrespect Mr. Circumcision. Okay, I'm trying not to disrespect him. So, but my thought was like, okay, you know, we're doing NIL stuff. It's really not a good look for us to promote the calling of a former coach a bitch. Like I think it's better we stay. I'll let other people do that.
It's funny
because I mean there are still people on the team that don't hate Lincoln Riley. Probably wouldn't appreciate us calling him a bitch or selling merch that calls him a bitch.
That's why I just call him a scumbag.
That's much better. Yeah, that really clears the gap there.
Although truth be told, if I don't want to turn into a certain person, but if people are 100% on, you put them on a lie detector, and you said, "Do you still like Lincoln Riley?" I wonder how many people would fail that test if they said yes.
Even people that are still working for him.
Oh yeah, we know that. This is the kind of thing that's going to get us all blocked.
It is what it is. I mean, I think the most surprising thing about the whole, now that the chapter is closed, everybody I think is seemingly moving on, except for social media, which, I don't think people are necessarily ever going to move on because that's what social media does.
Right.
But at the same time, the water carrying that's been done by some of the national reporters has been, I don't know, I guess slightly disappointing. I know it's the biggest story in college football with Caleb Williams going out there and, USC. People want USC to be good. I get that. It's just been kind of disgusting the way that I feel like some narratives have played out from the Los Angeles side of things. And that's me just being a complete bitch about it. I realize that.
Which is the worst narrative right now? That USC is going to be a playoff team next year, or that, whoa, this team, there's massive problems? I don't know which one's worse and which one.
You having massive problem?
No. USC. There is one side of LA that seems to feel like this team's going to the playoff because they've got Caleb Williams and Mario Williams. And then the other people are like, whoa, this defense has massive problems, not to mention the offensive line and everything else. But, again, everybody's just getting crazy.
By the way,
that's kind of is that what Thamel wrote? Basically, everybody needs pump breaks because
it's Feldman. Feldman wrote
Feldman?
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Feldman.
Okay. My bad.
But no, I mean, it is it's just like Rush 3, Drop 8. It's like there are issues there, and it doesn't matter what Lincoln Riley's offense does. When I heard Lincoln talk yesterday, this is basically what I heard. Yeah, when we got here, we realized that there's not a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Basically, Alex Grinch has his work cut out for him.
I've heard from multiple people that the talent was worse than they realized.
I mean, how could it be if you're USC and you go 4-8? How could the talent be good?
No, USC has no excuse to ever be worse than 9-3. With the way they're located, the other programs that are in that area, they should fall into 9 wins. That should just happen by dumbass luck.
I mean, Utah, they came out of nowhere and just took over that conference.
Somebody said, I think yesterday, I think it was listening to, maybe it was Brandon Huffman, Utah's been to 3 of the last 4 Pac-12 championship games.
But they hadn't won any, right? Until this year?
No, they won this year.
No, I mean, before this year, they hadn't won one.
Yeah. But they're representing the South. That's USC, that's UCLA. I mean, there's some good football in Utah. There are some good football players in Utah. But, God, USC and UCLA, that's just inexcusable.
Is Kyle Whittingham one of those guys like a Mike Gundy that does a lot? I'm sure that we know how good Mike Gundy has been over the last 10 years and what he's done with the Oklahoma State program. Is Kyle Whittingham one of those guys that does a lot more with basically less than everybody else? I think he's really, really good.
Yeah, they are, and they're really good about finding guys like the Lloyd kid this year that just was awesome. Finding those guys that have kind of the raw pieces, but are 2 years away from really being anybody, and just saying, hey, we're going to let this guy, he'll come into the program. If he'll buy in, he'll do the things we want him to do. In 3 years, we might really have something. And they're patient enough to let that be and let that happen. And again, and I say patient enough. There are some schools where you can't do that. Guys, we all know it. Like, after the freshman year, we'll get people on the board. Is so-and-so a bust? He's been here for 9 months. Calm down. Calm down. But you just, that's OU. And that's the good and the bad of being at a program like Oklahoma. The expectations are so absurd. It's hard to live up to those for some of these high-profile recruits. At Utah, I'm not saying the people of Utah don't care, but it's not the same. It's not the same level. It's like we were talking about last week. Yeah, people will be patient with you. If if he fires out 7-5, they're gonna be like, well, yeah, but look how good we've been the last few years. You fire at 7-5 at OU after winning a national championship, people are gonna be calling for you to be fired.
Well, and the other thing is, they've done it with experienced quarterbacks that have been there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now you have Cam Rising, who is an experienced quarterback, but he's also very talented.
Destroying the athletic head theory, just murdering it.
It's very troubling. That theory was working perfectly until last year. Because, I watched him quite a few times, and I was like, damn it, he's good. Like, he is overcoming the head.
Well,
I think
it makes me feel
examples.
Good. Go ahead, Eddie.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it makes me feel good because I loved his junior tape. I was like, this guy's really good. I thought, Riley had found a dude, and then his senior stuff was just okay, and he committed to Texas and washed out of there pretty quick. And you were like, damn, maybe that was just all wrong. And then you watch him this year, like, no, he's pretty good. Like, he's pretty talented. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but like that's the best quarterback Utah's had, I guess I would say since probably the
Alex
Chiefs
Smith?
guy,
Alex Smith, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the last name. I kept wanting to say Markham, who is our Utah publisher, but I knew that was obviously not right. So
it is.
Yeah,
it is kind of bizarre. Some of our quarterback pod battles, we still don't know the answer between Justin Fields and Lawrence. Who's going to be the better quarterback?
Well,
Is it fair
now
to
that
say
the Bears
that I
have
think
a
both are
have a
pretty
head coach.
goddamn good.
But it's who's better, and that's it.
Yeah.
The NFL is going to separate those two at some point.
I feel like that's always like the Michael Jordan, Kobe thing. It's like, why can't we just say that they're both really, really, really
Because
good?
they were in the same class, and one was ranked 1 and the other was ranked 2. Like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was he was drafted with Sam Bowie. The NBA separates those guys. Sam Bowie was drafted before him.
They're both being paid to play football. They both won. They both won the race.
Participation trophy. Just
I'm
sometimes
with Terry on this one.
Sometimes it's set up perfectly where you
Bob
get
knows that Justin Fields won that battle.
But then you have Joe Burrow in the middle of that too, transfers out and that, of that whole thing. And now he's the best quarterback. He's better than both of those guys.
No kidding. He really is unbelievable.
Right now, he becomes the next Tom Brady if the Bengals win the Super Bowl. I guess no one agrees with that.
No, I lost the signal. It's something if he wins the Super Bowl. I didn't hear.
I said he becomes the next Tom Brady if the Bengals wins the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Oh, I think he'd probably become more of in speaking of a Patrick Mahomes type than the top of the mountain.
I'm just saying he's on track to be, I guess I should have said it that way. Guy that wins it in his second year.
Sure. I guess Pat did, didn't he? Or was that his third year?
That was his third, I think.
Well, because his first year he
redshirted basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I got us off track but no, it's just amazing to me that some of these battles that we've talked about for years and years are still playing out. That kind of goes to your point, Josh, about how people want people to be failures 9 months if they're not stars.
Oh yeah, I mean, guys, it's you bring up Trevor Lawrence. People are already trying to label Trevor Lawrence as a bust, and you're like, man,
he plays on one of the worst
he got
teams
thrown
in
into
the league.
about
Yeah.
the worst NFL situation I've ever seen for a rookie quarterback. I mean, his coach clearly was not prepared to be at that level and was just a toxic
Because of that
environment
bachelor
all
party
around him.
he had in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, his coach just threw him under the bus about a bachelor party. That's just amazing.
Well, let's
That's another example of somebody
yeah.
that knows he's a scumbag and has accepted the fact that he's a scumbag, and he just continues to live life.
let's
Aaron Hernandez bury bodies.
talk about the offensive side of the ball. We did talk to Jeff Lebby yesterday. Did not sugarcoat his quarterback situation. Didn't try and play it up like, we need Dillon Gabriel to go in and win this job. He's just like, it's his job. Like, he's going in the spring as our quarterback. And maybe, if you have Jaxson Dart, you probably don't say that. But it kind of just shows you, Nick Evers, like, it's not your time yet. It's Dillon Gabriel's time. And it was kind of refreshing.
Yeah, is it Dillon Gabriel's time by default almost? I thought, like, I laughed out loud when he was like, well, Dillon Gabriel's the only quarterback that really is throwing a pass in a game right now, so I think we're going to go that direction. I thought that was pretty funny. And, I mean, Nick Evers has been pretty open about the idea that he wants to come in, and I don't think he's actually said redshirt, but I think he knows the reality of the situation. He needs to learn and, get his freshman season under his belt. It's good that he's in early to learn the offense. But I listen to Jeff Lebby talk. He definitely has the I don't know, would it be like a coach's tone?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I did talk to Evers, and we'll probably do that story in the next couple weeks, and you could just sort of hear, like, he's like, I'm not saying I want a red shirt, but I'm saying that's not going to discourage me. Like, I'm not going to be, like, down in the dumps. I'm not playing as a true freshman. This will give me time to work on my condition. That's the one thing he brought up repeatedly. He's like, I'm 6'3", 186. I know I'm not physically ready for what's going to be asked of me just yet. I need that time to develop and get bigger and get stronger. And it was a very refreshing, take compared to what we hear from a lot of recruits during the last, 2-3 years.
It's interesting to see what's going to happen too with the question that you asked, Bob, as far as settling or wanting another quarterback, because say you do wait to the end of the spring, anybody that goes into the transfer portal isn't necessarily going to be looking at an Oklahoma because you already know that you're coming in to be a backup, right?
Yeah.
It's like, where do you go for another quarterback, or like, how can you get another quarterback on campus that just wouldn't be a guy basically being a body out there?
Yeah, I mean, I did see where, God, I hate to say this, but I did see where Lincoln Riley picked up a quarterback out of Texas yesterday.
Oh, did he really? I didn't know that.
Maybe was it a 2023 kid?
Or was it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it was a scholarship. It was just like he's adept at picking up those guys. Like, he's always had, walk-ons on his roster that I think he probably sells it on, you come to play here, we'll groom you to be a coach as well as a quarterback.
Yeah. So right now the four quarterbacks in the room are Dillon Gabriel, Nick Evers, Ralph Rucker, and Micah Bowens. Is that the four that you enter spring with?
Yes, unless Ben Harris is still around too.
Oh, yeah, and Ben Harris. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I mean, he hasn't entered the portal or anything, so I imagine he's still down there. Well, I don't think that I think Ben would probably not agree with this, but I was going to say he would probably know what's up, but he had a hell of a career at Cole Albert. I don't know if you could necessarily say, go get it, big boy, with, on a Saturday if you need to win a Big 12 football game.
All right, take a quick time out and want to remind you guys, as always, about our good friends at Dead Soxy. That's Dead Soxy, DEADSOXY. .com. And hey, it's Valentine's Day. It's just around the corner. If you're still looking for that perfect gift for your special somebody, then check out Dead Soxy. They've got your gifting covered because nothing says I love you like some good socks. Josh can tell you that. He's got 2 kids. Dead Soxy has increased the discount on our Boomer code to 30% from now through midnight on February 14th. So you can head on over to the site and see all the new styles. They've got a retro OU sock coming out that you might want to take advantage of. But this is a great offer, 30% off using that promo code BOOMER. It's a happy Valentine's Day from Dead Soxy. So go over, check them out, DeadSoxy.com, Dead Soxy, great socks. Got the Oklahoma collection over there, have specials going on the 4-packs and the 8-packs. So go check them out. Appreciate them being a part of the pod. And as always, stay soxy. All right, guys, we were talking a little bit about the quarterback situation at OU and what they could do. One thing I would say this, talking to Lebby, Bob, did you really get the impression that maybe they would bring someone in the portal? Do you really feel like they're going to stick with what they got in terms of someone that could even challenge Gabriel?
Yeah, I think it's going to who goes into the portal after spring practice, I think is how it'll be determined. I think he wants another quarterback in the room. It's clear, but he also obviously made it abundantly obvious he wasn't just going to take someone just because they're a quarterback that's in the portal. It's got to make sense. And Chuba Purdy was someone that might have made sense. Maybe Casey Thompson. Obviously, Jaxson Dart was the one that we had all sort of circled. And so I don't know what type of name is going to be enough to jump out at Lebby. And as we've been saying time and time again, what sort of mindset that quarterback's going to have to sort of understand you're the backup, but we still really want you to be a part of this team. Can someone in today's day and age of quarterback transferring be able to accept that type of role?
Well, and you mentioned something that I've been mentioning a lot to people, and it's like you get through the initial wave of guys, Jaden Hazelwood leaving, Mario Williams leaving, and you ask, and everybody's on edge like, oh, what's going to happen next? To me, the spring is huge for Jeff Lebby in working with guys that are already here, the Marvin Mims, the Theo Weeses. I mean, he's got to use that to build a rapport with those guys and also to sell them on their roles in the offense. And they're playing under a different coach. I mean, the offensive line is going to be comfortable with Bill Bedenbaugh still there. Cale Gundy will help smooth things over. But, I mean, you're talking about a group of very talented, highly recruited players on offense. You've seen Spencer Rattler, you've seen Austin Stogner take off. Spring's going to be huge just from a retention standpoint, really on both sides of the ball, too, for Brent Venables and for Jeff Lebby.
Yeah, you're going to see these guys, come in and maybe they're fired up now, but they don't like their role, and that's why it is. After spring practice, you'll see the next round of portal, exodus, and it could work the other way too, where OU learns about someone like a Mike Woods once again and is able to sort of snatch them from the portal following spring. But I do wonder a lot. I mean, it seems like all those guys are fired up, but you don't know what you don't know at this point until you get to spring practice and you learn what sort of system they want to run, what sort of role you would be in, and will there be. And when you looked at the portal and you saw all the guys in the secondary, is that a message to Bryson Washington, Jaden Davis, Joshua Eaton, guys like that who seem like they're still bought in? But if you're getting all those guys from the portal, eventually something's going to shake out where you don't end up keeping all of them.
It's kind of fascinating what's going to happen with, and specifically the wide receiver position with a guy like a Cody Jackson is a perfect example of somebody that could really, like, a blank slate after, the struggles of last year, probably more to do with health reasons off the field than on the field and a lack of production. But, him or a Brian Darby, even a Jalil Farouk that flashed in the bowl game, obviously. I'm excited to see where those guys kind of fit into the program moving forward with a new offense.
Well, in a complete, I mean, it's hard to tell in spring, but, and I don't know what their approach will be, but I'm trying to think how many running backs will even be in spring camp.
Well,
3.
Sawchuck,
Barnes.
Barnes is there.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then Major and Gray.
Barnes, Gray, Major.
And then what's still left of the
Hudson
walk-on?
and-
Are there any?
Knowles
I
is
don't
still
know what that
around, isn't he?
situation is.
Hudson and Knowles, I don't remember if they're coming back or what their status is.
Well, Jaden
I'm pretty sure
Knowles
Jaden's
is
still around
he's
because he's interning at Channel 5 right now.
Yeah, Channel 5 and doing weather reports right now with all the snow out there.
Carrying Big Dairy's bag for him, but that's neither here nor there.
But it does mean a lot to have Javonte Barnes because I think
Sure.
we all thought he was just signing. He was just doing the secret signing, announcing at the Under Armour game. But then for him to be a mid-year guy too, that is a really nice boost.
Well, and it's just crazy because, like, he and his people were telling me, no, he's not going to sign until February. Not only did he sign in December, he is enrolled in January. Like, I was one of those things where you're like, you knew that lie couldn't hold. Like, I mean, you knew, like, you might have thought for a player that's going to enroll in May or June, they might have thought, well, okay, if they find out we signed, whatever. But, the commitment is what everybody's going to notice. Like, you were enrolling. You knew that story couldn't hold.
Well, good on the coaching staff for not blurting it out there.
It's fine. I mean,
You can trust this staff, I guess.
I guess so.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Like I said,
Unless, I'm going to throw this out there, Josh. Unless Alton Tarber not being able to be a mid-year allowed Barnes to be that guy.
maybe, but I mean,
I'm
gosh,
throwing
that
out
had to
weird
come
theories
together. Like,
today. That's
yeah,
not
like Bob's just living his life right now. I mean, he would have to have already been qualified to graduate, or he would have already had to have graduated. I mean, there's no other way to say that. And then secondarily, have been ready, to move and do that's. I don't know, Bob. I think that was a little far fetched, even for you, buddy. I mean, you're becoming our theory guy. I kind of like it.
I just go back. I go back to what? Man, it's 10 years. Trevor Knight, Taylor McNamara. How Trevor Knight stepped aside, so Taylor could be a mid-year guy, and that didn't really matter though.
Can you that feels so strange? And I remember the situation. They needed Taylor on campus, but telling a quarterback to hold back, that just seems crazy in retrospect. Even if Taylor had become, the player that I think some people thought he might be, that's just wild. But yeah, guys, kind of talking about portal, it sounds like wide receiver, quarterback, and running back are what I would. What what I'm gathering would be of importance. Oh, what's that?
Kamar Wheaton time.
No, stop it.
It's not. Damn it. Kerry just doesn't want to see me that emotional anymore. He's seen what Kamar can do to my psyche.
That was a low
it's
point in Crimson Corner history. Kamar Wheaton's whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
What is that?
But for those out
mean,
there that
why don't you just
trying to get back to DFW?
I mean that feels like a tailor-made TCU situation, doesn't it? I mean, just because of the SMU made a run at him out of high school and seemed like they had a chance. Now with that whole staff now being over at TCU, that sure makes a lot of sense. And with them losing Zach Evans, that could kind of. I'm not saying Kamar Wheaton's ever going to be what Zach Evans is, but I mean he's at least going to give you something you can sell. We lost him in the backfield, but we've got this other 5-star guy coming along. It's something you can sell to boosters and that kind of stuff. So that could be interesting. But for those out there that aren't on the board, haven't read, I think I posted it 2 weeks ago. OU is not going to be involved with Kamar Wheaton. I know people will why didn't they check into it? From what I understand, they did, and just this nope. That's just not a fit.
Bob, why don't you just start a rumor that Tristan Lee's following Brent Venables back to Oklahoma as well? Just bring it all together.
That's why he was in South Carolina.
Do you guys remember like the rumor, like within like days of Brent being hired, was it Todd Bates was going to come and Brian Brzee was coming with him?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, every rumor was out there.
That's not how this works.
Dabo Sweeney was coming to
unless you're Lincoln
Oklahoma.
Riley.
I mean, come on.
Yes.
There was not a rumor involving a Clemson
and you
staffer
reported
that
it
wasn't
as
out there.
fact. You were like,
Stop
I
it.
really believe
See?
this.
Stop it. Trying to get me in trouble. By the way, I am being entertained right now. I was just checking email real quick, and Nextdoor has jumped it up to another level where UFO activity is now being discussed.
Isn't there another acronym for it now? It's not UFO, it's UFV or UFI. I saw something. I can't remember. I was reading some article where they were talking about how the acronym has now changed, and I think
so.
It
We're
dates us
olds if we
don't
call
know
it UFOs.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. So, is there any other signing day stuff we want to cover? Like I
told them it was a Star Destroyer and to get inside.
Oh,
that's my next thing is I want to get banned from Nextdoor just so I can get off it, so I don't ever have to look at it anymore. People bitching about their neighbors' dogs without talking to their neighbors.
Oh, I got a couple ideas on how you could get banned. I mean, it'd be pretty easy.
It's
but
all
not arrested.
so passive aggressive.
Not arrested. Just I mean, you might get sued, but you definitely get banned.
I should erect something really strange in my backyard just to get everybody talking about it on Nextdoor. Make it like a real, like just spend my if I retired tomorrow, I would just spend my life trolling Nextdoor, just getting people to get up in a tizzy for no reason. Like search every single city statute and just be a total troll and just bend the line, bend the rules, but not step over the rules, but do stuff that people hate. Boy, I think I'd be better off just being a troll on the Crimson Corner. It's a lot less work.
I have got a neighborhood that we like to complain. There's a couple of attorneys. There's a little bit of a litigious feel to it.
Oh boy, that's good too.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Well, we've had that on the board. You know, third-year law students are the worst. I mean, I hope you do great things in life, but you guys think you know everything. And you never shut up.
Would you say that's like third-year students of any course of study? Like a third-year like psychology student thinks he knows why everybody's
he wants
brain
to put you
does
on his
what
couch.
it does.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think
everything.
that's occupational hazard of being a long-term student.
By the way, somebody should psychoanalyze Jim Harbaugh and find out if he actually knows that the world exists around him. Or, I mean, like, can you be less self-aware as a human being than Jim Harbaugh? Interviewing for a NFL job on signing day. Like,
did you read into like anything that came out about the interview process with Minnesota?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I really have.
I mean, it basically sounds like Harbaugh thought he was going to Minneapolis and they were going to offer him the job, and the front office in Minnesota, like, had no intention of offering him the job, and that's why the report came out from the Michigan side that they thought. I think he was telling people, or at least people close to him thought he was leaving because he was telling them that he thought he was going to Minnesota to get the job, to be offered the job. And I don't think Minnesota ever had any intention of offering him anything.
It was almost like a courtesy interview on their part.
Right. I guess he's close with the new general manager, a name that I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce.
Guys, it's like the old expression, like if, a man or a woman would cheat on you or cheat on, someone else with you, they'd cheat on you.
Right.
I don't understand how people that know how Jim Harbaugh operates in these situations would ever want to hire him. From year to year, Michigan has no idea what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. Like they like last year with that contract that everybody made the big deal about, it was just kind of a, hey, we've got to do something here. Either take this or, we're going to have to we're going to have to figure out something. And he doesn't speak to anybody. From what everybody can, from what I hear from everyone, it just kind of ends up being, oh yeah, I guess we're gonna do this for another year. You don't have a contract, Jim. Like it's just bizarre. And if you hate it so much, have an agent that will do all of this for you, rather than just leaving all these people in friggin' limbo, assistant coaches, players, recruits. I mean, all this stuff. I don't know how you would want to work with someone that in that arena is so unprofessional. Like you're leaving so much to chance every off season. Why would you hire that person?
The great Bunky Perkins put it best yesterday on Twitter when he said that Harbaugh reaching back out to Michigan to tell him that he's coming back in 2022 is exactly like going on spring break and then calling your girlfriend who's still at home and saying you're still dating.
Oh, I can't believe how Michigan fans feel. I mean, they finally feel like he's got their program going in the right direction, and then this happens. It's just like it's self-sabotage.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
It is. Very bizarre. What do you guys think about Ted Roof?
I mean, he's sex. I mean, I couldn't not have been more impressed yesterday. I mean, because you see
the beginning too,
guys.
It's real funny because everybody kind of makes their avies with him in there and jokingly, like he looks like somebody's dad, and they make fun of the leather jacket, and then you talk to him for the first time, and you're like, my God, this guy's got it together.
Oh, I think I remember telling you guys way back when somebody from Auburn's side of things reached out and said that, like, if you get a chance to go have a beer with him, he is an awesome, awesome guy. And I think you can see that.
I think we need to get that arranged between you and him, Eddie.
Guys,
and I do think that
I heard from people.
It did.
From the way he was explaining that yeah.
Until he has time to buy a house. I mean, the whole turnover thing is crazy.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Josh?
God, and for what you just said, how happy is the Norman real estate industry?
Oh boy.
Like there are so many people moving to Norman, the staff and its size. But what I was going to say is even some people that I will say are no longer in Norman, you take that however you want to, were like, he is the coolest guy you'll ever meet. Like everybody, like people that have reason that that you would have expected to go in and be like, man, that guy. Like I don't want to like this guy. Or like Ted Roof's awesome. Like he's just an awesome person, an awesome human being. Like kind of like what Eddie's saying. Like I would go have a beer with that dude any day of the week.
By the way, I did receive text messages that last week from our lawyer, who we talked about last week, who is now Brent Venables' administrative assistant. We're going to meet soon, but everything is okay. I appreciate the emails from other law firms that are wanting to represent us. We'll stay in touch. We'll see how things work out.
Hey, we employ Eddie. There's probably plenty of work to go around.
Yeah, to be honest, we probably need more lawyers than we have now.
Although this lawyer talk, it makes me want to reach out to O.J. Simpson and see if we can put his face on a drop 3 rush 8 shirt.
Oh God!
But maybe Mark Harmon is who we need. We don't need someone from USC.
Is he the last USC player to go through a nasty divorce like me and Lincoln are?
I bet Mark Harmon's probably used that NCIS money and had a nice divorce at some point. I don't know who.
He might be the guy.
We'd have to get
USC.
What about Eddie? No, Mark Harmon's. He played at UCLA.
He's UCLA.
I'm trying to think of UCLA.
Yeah,
we need to get like Troy Aikman. Man, who's the? I mean, Maurice Jones-Drew.
Oh well, there's probably a lot of UCLA people that get divorced. I mean, Westwood's crazy.
I've never actually been able to find Westwood, or people have said don't go over there because it's too far away.
To the west of Beverly Hills, I believe.
We drove around Dodger Stadium that one. Were you with me then?
Yeah, when we drove around Chavez Ravine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought about going to UCLA and just trying to see if we could see.
I think it's like a good 35, 40-minute drive from downtown Los Angeles.
I would just be interested in going over there. Yeah.
I think
sure
it's
beautiful.
nicer than a nicer area than what USC's around. USC's campus is just so weird around there.
We've been to USC's campus. It's just right off the highway. And
yes.
it does seem like it's a different world that when you're on campus. And you heard that, like you always heard that back in the day. I remember it was like Anthony Fogel was telling me a long time ago, we did radio together, like he went on a visit to USC and he was from Houston. And so he demanded, like they had a rule that you can never take a recruit. It wasn't like an NCAA rule. It was like a campus rule, like never take anyone off campus when they're here on an official visit. And he got there and he heard about that rule and he was like, I want to see Watts. I want to see the real stuff. And like, man, you really don't want to see. He's like, I want to see Compton. Like, and so they took him and he was from Houston. He thought he had seen the mean streets and it scared the shit out of him.
No kidding.
Yes.
That's funny.
So it's like
it's even worse right now with all the homelessness.
Oh, I know. I mean, but
like all that trash and shit in the train systems and stuff.
Well, like that stuff that we went, like that student center, like there was a Target there, but it was like there were guards there. Like,
yeah, like we had to. I think we kind of like looking back on it. I think we kind of snuck in.
But why would you have restaurants that only students can go to? I mean, we just went in the parking garage and came out, but yeah, there were people had to check in and check out and stuff. And maybe it was weird. Like, how could there be an exclusive Target just for USC students?
Because it's the Mecca.
Yeah.
Is that race this weekend? It's just amazing all the fighting that goes on Twitter between like the minuscule amount of USC fans that have to chime in and like they just get attacked by OU fans. It's just
I don't think that's going to be stopping anytime soon.
No, it's not. And something dumb is going to happen. Caleb is going to say something at some point. By the way, nobody's paying $550 for your helmet. That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
You think Caleb's going to put a foot in his mouth? Is that what you're saying?
I bet at some point, yeah. I mean, he's ever like, does his clock start over? Does Lincoln Riley not let him talk to the media again this year since it's his first year?
Apparently,
I think he should.
Lincoln Riley's very open with the USC
foot in his
media.
mouth.
I mean,
some people will get it.
Mainly sorority girls at OU, yeah.
Program gals.
I just did. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I mean, guys, so far, Caleb has done less to make things worse than Lincoln Riley has.
Right.
Correct. Yep.
Like I would trust Caleb Williams in front of a microphone far more than Lincoln at this point. Like, how was he not prepared for the portal question that they had to ask him yesterday?
Does anybody get the whole portal thing? The pictures? Like, was that just supposed
whose
to be
idea
a
was
joke, or was that
That's
supposed
one
to be
of the
funny?
worst executed ideas. That gives off an interesting connotation.
Yeah, I saw a lot of mentions about glory holes.
They might as well just been sitting on a casting couch.
I mean, like, and if you're going to do that, like, do it. God, how many times can we say you are supposed to be like a film and production mecca? How does everything look so low rent and shitty all the time?
And how
it doesn't make any sense.
How did you use a production company from Dallas to redo your commitment videos in the same company that did them for you at OU, and they just changed from OU to USC? I mean, I thought, like, you're right. Aren't you supposed to have like the premier film school in the country?
It doesn't make any sense.
It's like they just printed out a piece of paper that's a transfer portal. There you go.
Do you kind of root for the Rams to win the Super Bowl just so more people are interested in the Rams than the Trojans? Not that I think that that's going to happen because, I mean, there were as many San Francisco fans in that stadium as there were Rams fans.
Yeah. I don't think winning a Super Bowl will change anything. People like winning.
Right.
Especially in Los Angeles. If USC wins and they're playing for Pac-12 championships and getting into college football playoffs and stuff like that, people will show up. If they're like they've been over the last decade, people aren't going to give a shit.
Yeah.
It's just the way that it is. Like, I think that to a certain extent, the passion for USC football obviously doesn't meet with what we are used to or in the SEC or anything like that. But, I mean, it is a big school. If they're good, people will support them.
Yeah. And it's an area that likes sports.
Sure.
But
I wouldn't
guys,
say it's a great sports town, but they
just have a shit ton of people out there.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Lakers. People like that shit.
The thing that always gets, I think, mistaken, even when they had it rolling with Reggie Bush and Lionel, I mean, like, you know, some of the best teams of this era, that stadium was not full. Like, people always like to present it as like, oh, it's an amazing. No, it's not. It's not like. That's why even in that era, OU could go out there and recruit fairly well in California because there's still it's half-hearted. I mean, it's like, yeah, who wouldn't love to go see Reggie Bush? But, like, are there people, like, tailgating and getting into it? No, that's not happening.
I mean, until that NASCAR thing came up, like, I guess I just never realized that the city of Los Angeles owns the Coliseum. I figured that was USC Stadium, like that they built it and everything. But, like, that's the thing. It's like, how do you improve your facilities if you don't even own them?
Probably why they have so much issue doing so.
When they did that big Coliseum renovation, who paid for that?
Well, that was for the Olympics, wasn't it?
No, I thought that they just did something like maybe
like
the last
you're
3
right.
or 4 years.
No, it would have been the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, it would have had to be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure USC does something to help or have a role in since it's, they use it so primarily.
Yeah.
But still.
But I'm sure they have to lease that from the city.
Guys, God, I feel like we still spend way too much time on USC on this pod. I was looking the other day.
Do.
In the last 35 years, USC has 10 10-win seasons. That's crazy to me. Like, this image of USC is this, like, super. You go back, and it's just, I mean, in the same time frame, OU has 19. Like, there's this image that USC is just this unstoppable force. Like, other than Pete Carroll in the last 35 years, it's been pretty damn stoppable.
Yeah, I mean, they've made a lot of splash because they've recruited a lot of players. But where else are they going to go? I mean, did you see is it Lapoy, Tosh Lapoy?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see his little barb towards Lincoln Riley?
Yeah, with Dan Lanning. Was that in front of like an audience?
It was like a national signing day kind of event type deal.
Yeah.
Is he the one that said about trying to build 7-on-7 teams or something?
No, this was they got a question about Lincoln Riley taking over at USC, kind of like kind of how are you worried about it? I got the audio right here. I'll play it for you.
I think that guy they hired at USC, he got close but never closed out the deal. So, do you wear your national championship ring when you go on the road recruiting?
Well, only because you brought him up. He did get close, real close. We actually played him. I was the defensive coordinator on the other side of the line. He had a guy named Kyler Murray, really good player. It was 28-0 in the first quarter. So,
I think I remember that game.
But he did get close. Yeah. You're right.
Oh, my God. I love it, but man, that's just going in.
Lincoln won't be happy. He'll block him on Twitter now.
I think that's only for the elite.
No, that wasn't what he and Pete Golding were co-defensive coordinators in that game, weren't they?
That was the year before. Was Golding there already?
Was that
at
a
that
year
point?
before Golden got there?
Yeah.
No, because I remember people were talking to Pete Golding because he was rumored to be a candidate for OU's defensive coordinator.
You're right.
Golding got to Alabama in 18.
Because he was talking about like spaceships or something weird.
He's just following the Mike Leach model. Say weird shit and people will think you're really smart.
By the way, did you see?
He had a rough night.
Yeah, Golding did have a rough night. I think Golding is just I think he is actually in college. Like, apparently he's dating cheerleaders, getting DUIs.
Yeah. Well, he had that moment after the SEC championship game.
Right, that was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
He's living his best life in Tuscaloosa, I think.
Oh, I had a reporter that I think maybe a couple of you know. His brother played for him at UTSA and just says he's just an awesome dude, just a great, fun ass guy to be around. So
he's a bro.
Yeah, 100% bro. Like, like in college, he was wearing his hat turned backward and had the bill cut up. It was no sleeves. I mean, he was definitely that kind of bro.
All right. Well,
real quick.
Junior day.
Okay, yeah. Go.
So dot.
Bob dropped a "so" on me. Bob, damn it, I'm just living this life, Bob. Just living this life.
You knew it was going to happen as soon as you put it up.
People are like, Bob, like, I think that is I absolutely believe you would have thought all the steps out of that. I was like, so's always been negative. Let's make it something positive. That is as far as my thought went. Like, it was never like, oh, they're not going to care because it's not a fight. Like, I don't understand if you're an OU fan why you wouldn't be excited about commitment. Like, I can understand if you're not as excited about a guy that picks OU over Alabama, or a guy that picks OU over, K-State and whoever else, as compared to a five-star guy that picks OU over Bama, Clemson, whatever. But you still should be excited. Like, it's a player that coaching staff, who I think we've all said is clearly in lockstep behind Brent Venables. I mean, I don't think the fans have ever been more solid behind one guy and what his belief system is and what he's doing than Brent Venables right now. So if Brent Venables and staff think Eric McCarty's good enough, why the hell would you not be excited? Like, I that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand that theory and that logic. To forget that the kid's really good. Like, forget rankings. Like, he's a good football player.
People pull up the player card, though. You know how this goes, Josh. And they see McAllister, and they see they don't see all 5 of the stars filled next to his name and make assumptions. And let's be honest. I mean, a white kid from McAllister, people just maybe they've been spurned by one too many from the Buffalo program.
I feel confident like that, Eric McCarty would like to be on campus as soon as possible. I think the plan at current is for him to be like a safety nickel type. Now, I talked, and Eddie, we were going to go see Eric McCarty and heard from several places that maybe the previous staff was never going to be that involved with Eric McCarty, and we didn't need to really go see him. So we didn't go see him.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we never got a chance to see him in person, but we will rectify that. To anybody listening, don't worry. We're going to see Eric McCarty, pictures, video, the whole thing. That will all happen. At the same time,
while we're at it.
What's that?
We're going to go to Krebs while we're at it.
Sure. Talking to a few people, his frame is big. Like, he's a big kid. So I think they know he could grow into, I'm not saying it's the same storyline is Jaden Rowe. It's the same, positions that are possible, but the same kind of idea. He's a really good athlete, a really good football player. Let's figure out where he'll go. Like, I don't think they're real worried about the position. And that's, guys, I had gotten, I think, so used to, this, they have to fit this ideal, they have to fit this position. And Oklahoma in the previous staff was, especially on defense, was very tied to that. If they didn't match up with certain things, that guy just was not going to be recruited. This staff, I mean, you guys, Brent talked about it, Roof talked about it. They're going to be very versatile in what they do. They're going to mix up personnel groupings. They're going to do different stuff. And so it's making me change the way I look at guys who are or are not OU recruit, type guys. And like I said, I think McCarty, I think they're excited about him. The first play of his clip, of his highlights, may be one of my favorite plays I've seen all year. Literally just reads the play, sweeps wide, blows up the fullback, just detonates the kid, regains his feet, finds the ball carrier, and then goes and makes the play wide of where the initial hit happens. Like, most guys they hit the fullback, and that's it, and it's over. Instead, he slides outside and makes the play. So it's nothing, like I said, if all you care about is 5 stars, then you probably don't want to follow recruiting, because even Alabama, 80% of their class is not 5 stars. And if that's all you're going to get excited about, I wouldn't follow recruiting. Like, there's more to it than that. There's making good evaluation. There's finding good players. There's finding guys that fit what you want. And Eric McCarty fits what Brent Venables and company are looking for.
That's one of the under radar, most fascinating things about the new staff has just been the kind of what you're talking about, evaluation process for a lot of these guys. And Eric McCarty fits that bill. Obviously, Gavin Freeman fits that bill. I mean, I asked you guys in the war room if either of those guys would be part of the Oklahoma program had there not been a coaching change, and I think it's pretty obvious what the answer is.
I don't disagree. I don't think there's any question McCarty would not be committed to OU right now, and probably would not have an offer and would have had very little contact. Because he came to an OU game last season, and my general impression was just that nobody was that concerned about him. Like that, and again, that's no diss to them or diss to McCarty. They just didn't feel he fit what they were looking for.
Let me ask you this too. So let's just take a look at the Los Alamitos kids. It seems like when we talked about him, in the war room and stuff, it almost seems like this staff, and you can tell me if you think there's any truth to this or any if it feels like this is happening, but it's almost like Jeff Lebby and his staff really aren't that interested in recruiting anyone that Lincoln Riley was associated with.
There's some of that. I mean, and I don't know if it's fair or not, but I pick up what you're putting down.
To Malachi Nelson at all? Did he just have to decommit because he just wasn't getting any response from the new staff?
I don't know that it would have.
The very next day.
That happened so quickly.
Yeah.
They probably never got his number.
That's true.
He was committed to USC about the same time. He almost by the time Lincoln Riley, or not long after Lincoln Riley landed in Los Angeles.
That's true. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that was never going to be in play. But for those, I know everybody got worried. DeAndre Moore, he doesn't want to go to OU. DeAndre Moore wants to go to Oklahoma. I literally was talking to the kid, and he goes, "If OU wants to recruit me, that's my dream school. I'd love to be there." This was an Oklahoma choice. 100%. I mean, DeAndre decommitted. I'm not saying OU made him do it, but OU was not recruiting him. They were not talking to him. They were not in conversation with him. Nothing was happening there. The coaching change Oklahoma's new staff felt differently about him than the previous staff did, and that's all there is to that. And we've talked about it before. I like DeAndre a lot. He's a good kid. Good to deal with. I think he's a good player. I'm a little surprised at the reception to him, but at the end of the day, they've got to take the guys they want, they like, and I think that's all this is they just don't see him as a fit for what they want to do.
Which, judging by how some of Lincoln's receiver evaluations have worked out. Can't really blame them for feeling differently.
It's been like boom, bust, 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 boom, bust, bust. Like it's they'll have one huge dude and then 3 just massive mistakes.
It's weird.
Not always massive, but just misses.
Well, it kind of goes back to your point about evaluation. You want the stars because those guys are usually stars, but you also have to be able to almost weed through the guys that are overrated.
Well, and that's the concerning part for me, Kerry. I guess it's not concerning anymore. But what was concerning about receiver is a position where the hit rate's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
If you're a highly ranked guy, you usually turn out. You're a highly ranked running back, you usually turn out. OU had a lot of highly ranked receivers, and not many of them turned out. I don't know what that says. I don't know what that meant. It's certainly not just Dennis Simmons. Like, that is a going back a ways. We can talk about some guys like that, where there were a lot of misses on guys that were really highly thought of, and I don't know what that is. Like, it's a weird thing. I mean, then rankings are not exact. I'm not saying that. I know that'll be the instant reaction I'll get from 12 Twitter responses. But over the larger number, receivers usually turn out. If you're a big-time recruit, usually you're a good player in college. And, I mean, there's just a lot of guys that not just weren't good, were completely inconsequential.
Well, I mean, you had the run with Sterling, D.D., and then Marquise, and then CeeDee Lamb. But you haven't had that next guy. I mean, it was supposed to be Charleston Rambo. Wasn't quite that guy. I mean, that's probably the first example of someone that was highly recruited that just wasn't as explosive as you thought he should have been. I still think Theo Weiss has a chance. Marvin Mims obviously has a chance. Jaden Hazelwood, his lack of development was shocking. Injuries had a lot to do with that. But I don't know. It's just like, the gap is not so much that you're just like, okay, well, what happened? Like, but you'd like to see another receiver produced, because when you talk starting with Sterling Shepard, you're talking pre-Lincoln Riley.
Yep.
And Dede too, right?
The crazy thing is
he was pre-Lincoln, right? No, he was one of the first.
No,
Lincolns. Yeah,
the very beginning. The crazy thing is some of those guys, you mentioned Rambo, and it made me think of this. It's like, Rambo had a pretty decent year at Miami. Jalen Robinson went down, had a really good career down at Central Florida.
Yeah.
They just haven't produced at Oklahoma.
Well, now, to be fair to Jalen,
right.
There was plenty of belief Jalen was going to be really good at Oklahoma. Jalen's problem was not on the field.
That's fair.
I think they were sad to see him have to go. Like, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, your overall point, I get what you're saying.
If anything, I would say it kind of goes back to the umbrella coverages and Lincoln's, inability to run the football. It almost made the passing game unreliable in this last year. And I mean, it's like,
2 years.
I mean, look at everybody at the end of the season. They were like, how was Kennedy Brooks not the feature back from the moment the season started? Like, how was he not rushing for 150, 200? Like, that's what Oklahoma's offense should have been. But Lincoln could never commit to the run. He never could. And he's always had that problem. Unless he had Stoops looking over his shoulder.
There's a part of me that thinks Marcus Major could be OU's feature back next year. Like, over Eric Gray, because of what we've seen of Eric Gray.
I mean, Eric Gray serves a purpose.
A good player. Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's
a perfect third down back. I mean, that's what he is.
Yes, 100%. And like I said, he's got a ton of uses. I'm not down on Eric Gray at all, but there's no. I mean, I don't know how you watch the first half of that year. Like, I get it if maybe Gray was great through spring ball and fall, and Kennedy Brooks was still trying to get kind of into football shape after spending a year away from it. Okay, like, fine, I guess. But at some point, you're absolutely right. Like, There was just no question Kennedy Brooks was your best running back and needed 20-plus carries a game, period. Like, no exception to that. You're getting him 20 carries and then build from that whatever you need to.
I mean, and the other thing is, like, you look at the Super Bowl and you have two of the running backs that were on the same team playing for the Bengals. Like, and nobody's like, this is an old take, like, but when people aren't even going to know who this is, but when James Allen and Gerald Moore were thunder and lightning, like, that was such a big deal. Like, Mixon and P-Ride never really reached, like, just that thing with the fan base where they were beloved as a duo, and they should have been. I mean,
well,
the Mixon thing, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's one of the biggest tragedies in the history of OU football PR, I guess you would call it. Like, there was just no coming back from that. And it was just a constant, like, you think, did you guys see Joe Mixon getting interviewed after that game?
No.
He was getting interviewed on the field, and I'm sitting there watching. I was like, man, he's really a sharp guy. And I mean, we knew Joe before all this happened a little bit, but
yeah. I went back. I was looking at that interview that you did with him in Chicago, Kerry, when we were up there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that was like when they were building Headington Hall and stuff. I remember asking him about that, and he's just, a big smile on his face all the time. And, when that stuff happened, I couldn't believe it happened just from what little I knew about him. Like, I just couldn't believe that was the same kid. But it's like, for him to never do an interview per his lawyer's advice, like, that was the worst thing that you could have done. I mean, going through that Orange Bowl thing with the media and him basically just getting put through the meat grinder of, what was the reporters there named Lindsey Schnell that was just, like, pacing back and forth. And like, the media guy said, if you ask him any questions, you will be removed, regarding his legal matters or whatever. It's just like, if they would have just come out immediately, not immediately, but, after everything happened and after the charges were filed or not filed, and just had the, let him fall on his own sword press conference, but that never happened. And it ruined his entire time at Oklahoma in the public eyes.
I mean, I don't even know if this is controversial, but I'm happy for him. Like, I'm glad that he's having so much success, because I truly do believe that he is, I don't know if I can say number one, but he's in my personal top 3 of best players I've literally ever seen. He was so, I mean, like, we weren't surprised at that one-handed catch against Tech in that Patrick Mahomes Baker Mayfield game, because we saw everybody
that.
Talks about, I say it every time, but I mean, Mayfield and Mahomes were great that night, but Joe Mixon was the best football player on the field.
He's really good. I mean, even Samaje is really good.
It's crazy to always talk about Mixon, too, in knowing that we were all in the stadium the night that Samaje Perine sets an NCAA record for most rushing yards. Like,
most miserable game you've ever filmed.
We probably undersell the fact how good Samaje was.
Yeah, no. I mean, does he still have the record?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Didn't somebody come really close to it like the next year?
No. Melvin Gordon broke it.
Year.
The Buffalo running back.
Buffalo running back.
They
yeah.
took him out.
Yeah.
They took him out.
But remember, Melvin Gordon broke the record like 2 weeks before he did it.
That's right.
Yep. Yep. Gordon's 420. No, what was he? I don't remember.
I think it was like 417 or something. Perine didn't break it by a bunch, if I remember.
No, it was just on that one run, and then they took him out.
Melvin Gordon had 408 against Nebraska.
408, that's it.
Yeah. On November 15th, literally the next week, November 2nd, is 22nd is when Samaje breaks it.
Yep.
And then 2 years ago on November 28th, something about late November games, guys just run wild. Jarrett Patterson ran for 409 against Kent State.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So he's number 2. So Melvin Gordon.
only 4 guys in history have run for more than 400 yards. The other one is LaDainian Tomlinson in 1999.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
We dare not talk about basketball in this pod. It's just no. I don't.
Give them a shot at Bedlam, and then we'll come back next.
Stick a fork in them.
Hey, no.
Not yet. Not yet.
You were kicking me off the bandwagon a week ago, all right?
Oh, I'm not saying stick a fork in them. I'm saying just as a whole, people want to stick a fork in them. I'm still there. I still got hotel reservations for the Final Four. I just don't know if they're going to make the NCAA tournament, so we're going to have to review that.
Might just be there.
Yeah, I might just have to go. I mean, I'll go.
It was a lot of fun watching that Tech game. That crowd was insane with Chris Beard in town.
Incredible was.
I mean, the Big 12 is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Even the bad games are good. It's like the Kansas State Oklahoma State game on Wednesday night was pretty decent.
I mean, losing twice to TCU is just a killer.
Well,
it's a killer, but they're not terrible.
TCU's what, 15-4?
Yeah.
Beat LSU, beat Texas A&M non-conference, won in Ames.
They're a good team, but
Iowa State is falling apart fast.
It's that performance was unacceptable. I mean, getting out rebounded by 22 is just insane. But you can also say that TCU is a pretty good basketball team.
Felt like a lack of a sense of urgency when you know you need a game like that.
Well, it's like, and everybody is getting beat down. Like Tanner Groves is getting beat, like he's losing all his confidence, just in every aspect of his game. Like Jordan Goldwire's the only one that showed any flashes. Like Harkless,
but it took him to the late in the second half,
right? But
he had like two points until he went nuts, and it just exploded.
Well, he needs to go nuts more. I'm fully behind Jordan Goldwire doing whatever he wants with the ball. He's the only person that's really finished on a consistent basis in a half of basketball this season. Maybe Harkless a little bit, but like that's I don't understand why you try to switch it up. You put Jacob Groves in the starting lineup, and he's not in the game at the end when you need someone to hit a three. Like it seems like
he just hasn't made any.
I know, but still, he's tall, and you need to get as many shooters out there as possible to spread the floor and get somebody an open shot. It might not be Jacob, but they couldn't get a shot. I mean, they just couldn't get a good three at the end of the game because they didn't have enough shooters on the floor. I don't know. There's so many things you can be frustrated about with OU basketball. I mean, the list is long.
It is, and you can hear it in Moser's voice. It'll be interesting to hear his tone with the Bedlam Zoom Friday.
Just a rough spot because they're in a lot of other conferences. You get at least a breather somewhere.
This was their breather week,
and that was their breather against
and
the team 15-4.
Now they got to go
rating inside the 64.
Now they got to go play a team in Bedlam that just got beat by Kansas State, so they're going to be pissed off.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And then you go and play Texas Tech in Kansas next week.
Oh.
Good luck.
Sorry.
I feel like I was lied to. I was told we weren't going to talk basketball. There's a lot of basketball talk going on.
But there's a lot of not.
There's a lot of.
I was misled.
This has been a very big airing of grievances pod. We had the USC stuff, basketball. I mean, like signing day went very well, but there's a lot of grievances to be aired about. Well,
ended on a good note in saying that. It's a little incredible. And Josh, you put it out there yesterday. It's incredible that they were able to not only, I guess, keep this thing together, but finish with a top 10 class. If you would have asked me if they were going to finish with the top 10 class, the day after Riley leaves, I would have said no way because I figured they would have lost a lot more. And I think that's why even as we get further away from it, like that month, or I mean, couple weeks that Bob had to hold everything together and come back, and Kale's out on the road, flipping somebody like a Kobe McKenzie. It's kind of incredible that they were able to keep everything together and still finish with the top 10 class.
Oh, it's unbelievable. All that they kind of went through. And guys, I mean, that's the thing we've talked about the national narrative about, Lincoln the great recruiter. And I'm not disparaging that idea, but this idea that Oklahoma wasn't going to be able to recruit without Lincoln Riley. This class is considerably more highly ranked than Lincoln Riley's last two classes at Oklahoma that he didn't have to scramble for in the last 6 weeks. So I again, man, I mean, when you see the response of these kids, you know, when I talk to 5-star David Hicks, talk to 5-star Anthony Hill, talk to Trey Wisner and his mom, like a borderline Rivals 100 player, like these guys are going to do fine with elite recruits. Like it'll be interesting to see how the NIL stuff works and how OU kind of incorporates that into their efforts and how much that plays a role. But if you're talking about just guys that are worried, you know, we talked about the Sooner sports content. One of the interviews, Kobe McKenzie was talking about with Caleb Kelly about when Texas came in to talk to him, all they talked about was money, how much money I was going to make, what I was going to be into, that kind of stuff. And he was like, man, I wanted to talk about how we're going to turn this program around. How are we going to how are we going to win games, that kind of stuff. And that was never really part of the conversation. And Brent came in and it was, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to win, you know, yada, yada, yada. And I think for the kids that look at it from that perspective, and Kobe said something like, you know, if I do the right stuff, I'll make money. That's going to be fine. But I think for the kids that can see it that way and can look at it that way, OU is going to be as good an option as anybody. Now, if you come out and it's just NIL, I don't think OU is going to be pushing that hard for you anyway. Like, I just don't think that's how Brent sees it.
It's almost a way to separate what you want versus, you know, trying to kind of, like we talk about bus and all that stuff, like it kind of, for Brent, he's using it as a way to say, if someone cares so much about that stuff, he's not going to be as good a player as we need him to be. He's not going to develop. Yeah. He's not going to work hard enough to become a great college football player.
If that's where
it
his
helps
head
you
is.
weed
Yeah.
out, you know, the guys that aren't in it for the right reasons, that might quit on you anyway.
And again, I mean, maybe Brent's right about that. Maybe he's not. But it's a way for him to know, you know, who I want to focus on, like who I want to put my energy into.
Well, it's kind of like you know,
it
like,
simplifies.
If A&M really is, you know, spending all this money for all this talent that Alabama and all these other people want, like, I think Alabama's given everybody the false sense of security that if you just recruit the best players, you're going to win. When it is about so much more than that. Like, Georgia's had really good players for a very long time until Kirby Smart came in there. They always underachieved. Like Nick Saban, it's just taken for granted that Alabama will sign a bunch of 5-stars and do really well. That's not how it works. It's like, it's not, and I know you have to fight these battles all the time about 5 stars matter and all this, and that is true, but development is a big part of that. And if you're getting all these 5 stars that only care about how much money they're going to make, how invested are they in your team, in the success of your team? Are they just invested in their own personal gains? Like, that's something that you have to take it. I think I'm on Brent's side with that part of this thing.
Yeah, and people always try to take it to an extreme, and I know it's not what you're doing. When I talk about, you know, stars matter and those things, you have to have a base level of talent or you are not going to win a national championship. Right. I don't care what you do, what you say, and I know that's not what you're arguing against.
Right. No, I will
that's
tell
always
you,
my point.
Look
You're
at
never
Georgia and
go,
Alabama in the national championship game. The amount of talent that's on that field makes you feel worse about your program, no matter who you are in the country. Nobody else is at that level that those two teams were at.
Absolutely. You know, but
A&M might be close.
At the same time, it's not the only thing that wins games. Like the things that separate Alabama from, you know, let's just be honest, Texas A&M. His name's Nick Saban. Like, and it's his staff.
The talent level is not that different.
I
mean, like, Alabama would love to have the A-chain kid. I mean, everybody would. Georgia would. Like, they'd love to have some of their defensive players. They lost 4 games. Like, so tell me, if they're that close in talent level, how do they lose 4 games and not even be a factor in their own conference race?
I mean, you're going to tell me, don't get me wrong, A&M's recruiting this year was even better than it's been, but that's been a top 6 class the last 3 years. So, I mean, you've got almost a roster full of borderline top 5 type talent, and they lost to Mississippi State at home. They lost to Ole Miss. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? Like this idea that he's just going to go win a championship now that he's done this. Man, that's not how this works. I'm just saying to have it, like it's kind of like it's like going through a door where you have those little scan cards. You can't go in the door to go play or to even compete for the national championship unless you have a certain amount of talent. Now, once you're in there, I'm not saying you're going to win it, but that's the only way you're getting in that door. Is it because, guys, I mean, Cincinnati, great story. Cincinnati had no business on the field with Alabama.
No.
None. I mean, they couldn't play with them.
Say the same thing about Michigan
and
and
Georgia. That's a really
Georgia.
good team. Yeah. Like, it's that's one of those things where you cannot fake it. You just can't. I watch guys all the time that dominate, Oklahoma high school football or Texas high school football or whatever, and then they go down to the Under Armour game and it's nothing but dudes everywhere, and all of a sudden they look pretty human. Like okay. Like the water gets deeper, and some guys are so gifted that they rise to it. But yeah, you can't, like, the four of us are not going to coach every 5-star in the last 4 years to a national championship. That's not going to work. There's more to it than that. But at the same time, it's your way. It's the only way you're getting in the door.
Soapbox ran over for all of us, I guess.
Sorry. I just always want to be careful because I'm not saying that's all there is, but it's got to be your starting point.
I'm just saying my point was I like Brent Venables' attitude just from weeding out the bad element.
Sure.
And he's going to be able
to
he's still going to recruit at a very high level just because he's got a good staff. He himself has always been a great recruiter. Like they're going to bring in good dudes. Now, are they going to bring in the same dudes that Alabama did, that Clemson had been, that Georgia is? That's the question. And we'll see.
And guys, the crazy thing, and somebody brought this to my attention. I won't say this was my, an original thought. The difference between number 3 Georgia and Oklahoma at number 8, from a points total in the recruiting class, is about the same as Oklahoma at number 8 and 36 Boston College. Like that's how clustered some of the elite talent is at the very top of the recruiting world.
I'm trying to make sense of that, and I really can't.
So, okay, Georgia had 31, like almost 3,200 total points in Rivals, recruiting. OU had about 2,350.
Okay.
So you're talking, 850 points difference.
Right.
The same difference to get down to about 1,500 points takes you to number 36 Boston College. Like that gap is the same from 3 to 8 to 8 to 36.
The star number or half the point totals as Georgia does.
I mean, Texas A&M had 3377. OU had 2342. That's like 1,000 points. That's multiple 5 stars difference.
Yeah,
like 5 or 6. That's just. It's crazy. I mean, that like I said, that's how clustered it is. Now, the thing with A&M, when you recruit like this, there's no 7 and 5. You better go win something that matters. And to do so, they're going to have to get through Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. It's about to get real deep real fast, and we'll see. Like I said,
Sliced
I'm
bread
kind
will
of
be
with
on
you.
his ass if he doesn't.
Oh, and not on Bro Bible. Good God. I'm glad I got to interact with Billy Liucci. It'd been too long. That was enjoyable, and actually a reasonable discourse with Billy Liucci. I'll give him absolutely his credit on that one. That was one of our better Twitter run-ins last night.
I did see some of that. Yeah.
Taylor
Ham. It was all right. No, it. I would have dinner with Billy Liucci 8 days a week before I'd spend a minute with Taylor Ham. Billy, if that's what it comes down to, Billy can come have dinner with me and the girls. Like, that's fine.
It is bizarre because Billy is friends with people I'm friends with or have acquaintances with, and none of them say anything bad about him, and none of them will say anything bad about me, I'm sure. But it is like this world that we live in, I guess, to where, it's just.
Yeah.
But I will say, it did. I believe him when he says that those numbers aren't what people are throwing out there. Now, there's still 15 to 20 million probably that is being committed to this thing, but which is more than everybody else but Texas is committing to stuff like that.
The Jimbo saying it's not 1 million. No, I'm not buying that at all. That's no sale from me. But
the dangerous thing is you have to find ways to for these guys to earn this money, and you don't know how much of their time this is going to take up. I mean, it's like the thing that I think is scary about it is like if you get all these players that think they're getting paid for doing nothing, because and I think Brent kind of said that yesterday. It's like you have to do things to earn money. No one just gives it to you. And if they do, it's not being done the right way. And you're probably going to get shut down.
My whole thing, I don't have, and I was talking to him about it. I thought I was really about to get into trouble with the A&M fan base, but to be fair, I think they were so happy they didn't really care what I had to say about anything. But I don't blame. I didn't get why he was so defensive about it. You're not breaking any rules. Who cares what Lane Kiffin's mad about?
I've said the same thing.
Like, why are you worrying about it? Like, you acting defensive makes it seem like something's wrong.
I think what it is,
rules, fine.
Here's what it is. The coaches that have been involved in doing the shady shit over the years, their first defense mechanism is always to push back as hard as you can. So people will think, well, he's obviously not cheating because he's very upset about being called doing something wrong.
It's just like Nick Saban saying, like, what are you talking about? Now it's all above board. Like, okay, Nick, all those Dodge Challengers, those are just coming out of thin air, were they? Like, what? Like, stop. Like, just stop. Like, don't dig the hole. It's same deal with Lincoln and the guardrails thing. Stop saying shit that's not true.
You're going down the same road that I get pissed off about, which is, it's like, just because someone has a Dodge Challenger doesn't mean that they're getting money under the table. Like, if you're getting a free college education and you come from just a regular family, like, they've been saving up for you to go to college so that you have a college fund. And then when it becomes free, like, you have enough money that you can buy someone a Dodge Challenger, regardless of whether they're black, white, yellow, brown, whatever. Like, parents can buy their kid a new car if they're going to college for free.
Sure. In some cases, I believe
I don't know why I let myself get upset about that, but it's just like, not every kid that plays football comes from the sticks and is, poor. I mean, sometimes people are just regular. Like, you think every kid at Jinx and Broken Arrow and Union, like, some of those kids are well off and they're good athletes. They're just
but it's amazing that they all have the same taste in cars.
Man, kids love Dodge Challengers.
That they all look so similar from all these different places.
Dodge Challengers are just engines with 4 wheels on them. I mean, the biggest engines you get, they're fun. Like, I love driving my car fast. Like, it's just like, it's fun. And if I had my car when I was 20 years old, it would be dangerous. Like, I think I saw where Patrick Field's car just had the front end just like ripped off of it. Like, it's just like, and those guys get their cars and they just rev them up and it's just fun. I get it.
I don't fault anybody. At the same time, I think it's a practice naivete to be like, no, Nick Saban. I mean, the guy's been Slick Nick for 20 years. Like, what? I mean, we really gonna argue like, no, this stuff doesn't happen or Nick Saban's watch? Like, come on. Let's be honest. It's the same deal. Like, Nick Saban didn't just become the recruiter of the year every year by accident. Like, is Nick Saban like this incredibly engaging personality? Hell no, he's not.
No,
like
I think
he's borderline
we
a pain in the ass.
We all know people that will tell you absolutely shady shit has been going on in Alabama for a long time.
Yeah.
And now they don't have to mess with it because of NIL, so they'll just figure out. But I mean, that's the thing. What? And again, we're like almost 2 hours long, so we'll wrap it up. But I find it comically interesting that people like Alabama are now worried about Texas and Texas A&M because they know if it's a game about donors and donor money, no one else can win. Like if it's under the table and shady and we can get away with it, then it's our advantage. But if all this stuff is out in the open, then my God, all of a sudden the teams and the programs that have the biggest boosters, they have an advantage, and that's not fair. Like I find it completely disingenuous.
Oh, 100%. It's a joke.
And OU is right there with Alabama. They're like, they can't compete with Texas and Texas A&M when it comes to, total donor bases. They just can't. Nobody can. But it's up to the NCAA to make sure that it was Lane Kiffin that talked about the salary cap where they have to pay luxury tax on this recruiting class. Like that's what pissed off Jimbo Fisher more than anything.
Yep. You didn't again, it reeks of a guilty conscience. Like you didn't do anything wrong. That's all you have to say. I'm sorry that
the way it's set up, no one's cheating because everything is allowed. Including making a slush fund to distribute it, to money launder it to the players somehow. You just have to figure out a way to do it. Anyway, all right, that's another thing we can talk about for another time. But I know Brent Venables is coming up here quickly. I think Bob had to shoot out. Eddie, I know you'll be on the call here coming up. So we'll let you guys know on the boards, what Brent had to say without breaking up today, and get more on Jaron Kanak and kind of that whole thing, and hiring the assistants from Clemson and how that all went down. And
are we all? Is everybody gonna just ask the same questions that they asked yesterday?
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
they have to, right?
It's all kind of the same
that was
stuff.
So frustrating.
But it was frustrating because you get half of his answer, and you didn't want to give anything out of context. So. Like
right, yeah.
I was comparing it to like those stupid commercials where like, you only get half the message on the cell phone. It's like it's a costume party, dress up. Or when Rob Gronkowski announced he was coming back from retirement because Tom Brady's message was all screwed up. So yeah, we just didn't want to like, and that's what's cool about Brady. He's like, yeah, it was messed up. Let's do it again today. So like you'd never get that.
No, he's been great.
He's
been great, and a thank you to Mike Houck for getting it done too. Because
look at that.
Huh?
Nothing. All right. We're going to get out of here. We will see you guys back here again next week. I think this definitely a contender for longest pod ever. So appreciate you guys. I was
just wondering,
listening.
Have we ever done a 2-hour one?
I think we have almost. Like this is almost 2 hours. But I will say this, by the time we're podding next week, at some point this weekend, I've just about got all our pre-orders, our pre-sale done with the site. I have a few stragglers I'm trying to ring in here. But we'll have some Unofficial 40 hats available on the website, on SoonerScoopStore.com. So keep checking that out, and those will be visors are sold out. The black Richardsons are sold out. The crimson ones are almost sold out, but we'll have some of the Imperials, the caps for you available as well. So keep an eye out for that because those will go fast. So if you want to know when it goes on sale, just shoot me an email, cmurdoch@Soonerscoop.com, and I will let you know. So. All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys back here again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.